Live from the Emerald City in Seattle, Washington, the UFO, Bigfoot, and Paranormal hotspot of the Pacific Northwest, coming directly to you, listening in around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Sunday. I am your host, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer, occupying the captain's chair tonight for SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including all of our listeners on the digital side at Revolution Radio. And don't forget, you can always find our archive shows for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do us all a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store, and catching up on SOR Newswire, and so much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by donating to Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. And here we are, folks, February 7th, 2021 already. We've got the whole first month of January in the new year under our belt. And my goodness, this is going to be an interesting program. Of course, we've got Peter Davenport for the first half hour. He's going to give us some information regarding the new UFO sighting reports from around the world since last Monday night, or last Sunday night, actually. And my guest tonight is Brad Olson. Brad Olson is a author and a very sought-after speaker and an esoteric scholar of information that you don't normally get to hear about. So we're going to have a fun show after that. So first of all, let me welcome Peter. Can you hear me, Peter?
I can hear you fine, Michael. How do you hear me?
A little low. If you can speak up, that'll be good. And then, Brad, are you there? Can you hear me okay?
I'm here, Michael, and glad to be here tonight with you guys.
All right, wonderful. Well, Peter, my goodness, it's definitely getting colder and colder out there in the western wilds of eastern Washington, I understand. How's the snow level now?
Well, it's only about a half inch deep on my driveway, but I woke up to snow not expecting any, so it was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I'll bet it's dusting out there pretty regularly out there. So, my goodness, Peter, I don't know if you've noticed, well, you have, I'm sure, being the director of the National UFO Reporting Center, but literally the alternative media, the internet, is just abuzz with all these interesting UFO videotapes that people are showing around the world, and I'm assuming it's going to cause you a lot of headache with people calling in with reports.
Well, not a headache so much, but just a lot of work. Maybe that translates to a headache. But unless I personally receive a written report and photographic evidence to support it, there's really not much I can do. People frequently call me and just want to talk about their sighting. And I'd like to make it to our audience tonight, is I can't simply listen to somebody's rendition of what he or she has seen and somehow manage to turn it into a report. So I've got to have people submit reports in order for me to be able to post them. So yeah, there's a lot of video out there, and my impression based on the video I received, which is quite extensive. I suspect I get 100 videos or still photos a week. Most of it is not high quality with regard to the issue of being able to investigate it or being able to say what it is.
Yeah, most of them are very, kind of mundane, but it is interesting that people are now starting to use their phones more and more and catching things that they think are strange anyway. But after 4 decades of what you've been doing, out there answering the hotline for the National UFO Reporting Center. You've got to have people do some work for them, for you, and get those reports down in a written form on your website, so you can make sure we'll make sure that we give them the information to do that tonight. But we'll let you go ahead and give whatever reports you want to give us now, and we will sit back and listen.
Well, the first one comes from the east side of Africa, from the island of Mauritius.
Oh.
And this is from the second day in February, so last Tuesday. A young woman writes that she and her young husband were swimming in a local swimming pool with their 4-year-old son, I guess teaching him how to swim. And her attention was suddenly drawn to a very, very bright white flash of light that was, her peripheral vision told her it was moving very rapidly. And she looked at it and she was amazed, she writes, by the fact that it was, from her vantage point, flying horizontally, parallel to the horizon. And going very fast. She estimates that it went almost from horizon to horizon in approximately 25 to 30 seconds. So that tells us two things. One is 30 seconds, probably not a meteor. That's a long time for a meteor to fly through the sky. And it's long enough that it wouldn't be a meteor. But he said it flashed several times and it stopped and then reaccelerated. That obviously makes it not a meteor.
Yeah.
Meteor will stop in the night sky. Very interesting report. Again, that was sighted over Mauritius Island, east of Africa, at 19:30 or 7:30 p.m. on the 2nd of February, 2021. Really a very nice report.
Now, at 7:30 p.m. in Eastern Africa, would that have been dark at that point for them?
I suspect it would have.
Yeah.
Certainly dusk by 7:30.
Wow.
They're below the equator, so maybe it would be summer for them, so maybe not quite dark.
Yeah.
A very nicely prepared report.
Did she say how she got your information to report it to you?
No, she doesn't. And that had occurred to me that it's fairly easy for people to find us. We'll give out that contact information at the end of my presentation, I hope.
Yeah. Wow, okay.
All they have to do is type in UFO reports and do an internet search, and there we are.
Yeah.
This report. The second report I'd like to share with our audience is as good as the first one. It comes from Sweetwater, Texas. This is from the 4th of February, last Friday, at 8 p.m., a 10-second sighting. The gentleman writes that he was driving north, leaving the city limits of Sweetwater, Texas. Just as he was leaving the city limits, he witnessed an unusual point of light in the northern sky. He writes that it was a steady and unwavering white light, abnormally brilliant. He said the most outstanding thing about this light was its brilliance. And he said it started increasing in diameter, which caused him to suspect that it was approaching him. And then, as in the case of the sighting I just recounted from Mauritius, the light suddenly stopped. And then he knew that it was something very unusual. After it stopped and hovered for several seconds, it suddenly accelerated and disappeared to the north at very high speed. He was shocked, he writes, by the sighting, what the object did. Yet another good report. And it leads me to my third report, which was submitted from Chichester, England, the city of Chichester in West Sussex, United Kingdom. A young fellow was in his mother's home with his brother, and he was looking out over the ocean when suddenly his attention was drawn by, again, a brilliantly bright, flashing white light that also had flashing green and red lights on it. Drew his attention immediately, and he said that the light, as in the case from Texas that I just cited, was so bright that it was painful to look at it. He said it was a blindingly bright white light.
Oh my.
It looked like a big ball from his vantage point. He
Yep.
said it was so bright that he had difficulty focusing his eyes on it. But his whole family went out on the deck and viewed this trilogy of lights, the very bright white and green and red lights. Now the green and red lights would, as most people who are familiar with aviation and shipping, immediately say, well, probably the navigation lights on the wingtips of an airplane if it was above the water. But those lights don't flash on aircraft or on ships. They're solid green and solid red. So a flashing red and green light is very unusual. But a very nice report. What these things are, I have no idea. As you probably noticed, this is the night for strange lights that I'm... That's one of the things that has happened in recent months is I'm getting, not only am I getting hoarse, but I'm getting a lot of reports of unusually strange lights that cannot be ascribed to meteors or satellites or aircraft, and I have no idea what these were or what they are.
Yeah, and I'm noticing, Peter, that they're not the standard orange fireballs anymore.
Well, we're coming to one of those, but you are correct.
Well, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I just wanted to make that observation. It sounds like they're getting very diverse.
They are. It's ironic you mentioned orange lights. The fourth report I'd like to share comes from Friday night, the 5th of February, at 11:15 p.m. Pacific time, Portland, Oregon. A woman who's a professional in the healthcare industry, I don't want to identify her specific job, but a very responsible job, reports that she and her husband, who are both experienced sky watchers, were standing outside looking to the south from Portland, and they saw 4 distinctly amber or perhaps bright red orange lights in a square formation. That by itself is unusual, although just that information by itself wouldn't allow us to rule out, for example, the possibility of sky lanterns or so-called Chinese lanterns. But one of the objects suddenly dropped precipitously out of the formation of 4, and it disappeared into a cloud bank or a cloud. And at that point, the remaining 3 began to shift and approached one another and formed initially an isosceles triangle, equal-sided triangle. And after a few seconds, 10 or 15 seconds, that equilateral triangle turned into an isosceles triangle with 2 equal sides. Very interesting report.
Wow. That is interesting. And you point out something that's kind of very important for people to understand, is that when you see 3 objects that form an equilateral triangle where all sides are the same length, that is quite unique. You don't see that very often in nature. And of course, you see normal triangles with different lengths on all 3 sides, because if you've got 3 different lights, you can always get a triangle. But an equilateral triangle is something unique usually.
And it's unusual that only one of the lights would have descended away from the other 3. before they formed a triangle. You would expect what is known as laminar flow in the atmosphere. If one was descending, trapped in a downdraft, for example, you would expect that the other three would be doing the same or would be somehow affected by the turbulence. That's not the case in this instance.
Right, right. And if indeed they were in some kind of a box format before the one left the formation and then it reconfigured into an equilateral triangle, that shows some kind of intelligence or coordination for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly my response to the report. And she also reported that 30 minutes after they saw, approximately 30 minutes after they had seen the first formation, her husband went out by himself to scan the sky again. And he now, the second time, saw a formation of 6, which did essentially the same thing that the first group had done, forming triangles, and very unusual. And significant as well, Michael, is the fact that all of this took place within sight of the Portland International Airport.
Oh my, yeah, which is quite busy airspace, obviously.
And it's control zone, and you have to have a radio and a transponder in that airspace. So it's unusual.
Yeah, and I know you've communicated many times with these folks in the tower at the airports and the military bases and stuff, and sometimes they acknowledge the presence of these things, and sometimes they don't. I guess, right?
Yeah, that's correct, but they're becoming much more liberal. They're willing in their willingness to talk about these incidents and these objects. I find.
Well, that's encouraging. Which is, I suppose, maybe now that they're seeing, the Navy coming out with reports, and Congress and the Intelligence Committee of the Senate, asking for reports, that maybe they can start talking about them. That would be great.
I received a report from the New York Air Raid Traffic Control Center on the 26th. I reported it, I think, during one of our programs, but I think you're right. They're becoming much more willing to talk about it.
Was this January 26th, you think?
December 26th, I think.
Oh, wow. Day after Christmas, yeah. In New York. Very interesting.
Yep. Well, another report I'd like to share comes from the great state of Vermont, the city of Bradford, Vermont. A woman writes that on Friday night, 2 nights ago, she was driving south on Interstate 91, and she saw a strange light ahead of her. She was confused by it. She didn't know what it was, but it looked like something very unusual, and she was struck by how rapidly it was approaching her. Her impression was that their approaching speed was more than her speed on the highway. So she got very close to it and became a little bit frightened because it was a lone white light, very bright, that was hovering directly above the interstate. And as she went under it, she writes, she had to crane her neck to look up through the windshield. It was a very strange light. She estimates that it was so low that it was within 6 or 7 feet of the top of her car.
Oh my! That reminds me of the Barney and Betty Hill thing, up that neck of the woods. Holy mackerel! That's a close encounter for sure.
It is. Very similar to Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters.
Yes, You know, and I often wonder about those kinds of folks, whether they could attest to any missing time or strange anomalies being that close to an object like that. I wonder, you know?
I wish I had the budget and staff to pursue that in depth and investigate.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Michael. You've been involved, I think, with suspected abductions or interactions, whatever you wish to call them. And they can take on a very unusual nature. And the only way to really ferret out the information is by interviewing the parties and getting into the incident as deeply as you can.
Yes, and periodically we are blessed with some of your witnesses coming on the air and talking about their sites. Feel free, Peter, anytime you get motivated for, or any of them are motivated to come on, we would love to talk with them, of course.
That would make for a really exciting program, I think.
Well, let's do this. We're about ready to take our break here, so let's get to the important stuff of how people can get a hold of the National UFO Reporting Center and that famous decades-long hotline that's been out there for people to call. And then if people, if they've got some spare motivation that they want to send Peter a few dollars to basically do what he does on his own here, please support Peter Davenport any way you can by. We'll give out your address as well, Peter.
Thank you. If anybody has seen and thinks he or she has seen a UFO within the last 7 days, they're invited to contact the National UFO Reporting Center. Our telephone hotline is 206-722-3000. That number again is 206-722-3000. And they will invariably get me. I'm usually the only one who answers that telephone. And I invariably request that people follow up with a thorough written follow-up report. And they can submit that using our online report form at ufocenter.com. ufocenter.com. We have an online report form on that website. And if they'd like to get in touch with us via the U.S. Postal System, our mailing address is the National UFO Reporting Center, P.O. Box 700, Davenport, Washington, 99122.
Very easy to remember. P.O. Box 700, Davenport, Washington, just like Peter Davenport. Well, Peter, thank you again for all this hard work that you do here week after week. Thank you for the reports. These are very interesting. All the way from Mauritius, Africa to Sweetwater, Texas, and Chichester, England, oh my word, Portland, Oregon, and Bradford, Vermont. So thank you for all of that.
You're welcome. It tells me there's a lot of activity going on. I'm getting quite a number of reports, good reports.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll find out what happens very shortly when we get to talk with you next week. And we will be right back with our first break here after this in just a moment. So thanks, folks. We'll be right back.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans! It's John Russell, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from dance to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauce is coming in 3 flavors. The burning bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. For more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you addicted to the woo? Good. Me too. This is Dave Scott, and you can woo it up with me every Monday through Friday, starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, for 3 hours of great entertainment in the subjects you love. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, intuition. Yes, we hit it all 5 days a week. Look for us at spacedoutradio.com. We're together, my friends. We own the night.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Need that weekend's supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday, right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm Sean Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best of paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Tucker, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacey from the Experiencers Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightline Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out the Sightlines Report on the Spaced Out Radio website, and let's figure out what's going on together.
Brad Olson is the author of 10 books, including 3 in his Esoteric series: Modern Esoteric, Future Esoteric, and the newly released Beyond Esoteric. An award-winning author, book publisher, and event producer, Brad's keynote presentations and interviews have enlightened audiences at Contact in the Desert, the UFO Mega Conference, the 5D events, and dozens of radio shows, including Coast to Coast AM, Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis, and Fade to Black, and television shows such as Ancient Aliens, America Unearthed, and Beyond Belief. Brad is a founder and co-producer of the How Weird Street Fair in San Francisco. The Chicago native's esoteric writing continues to reach a wide audience while he continues breaking ground in alternative journalism, public speaking, illustration, and photography. And we are excited to welcome Brad Olson to Spaced Out Sunday. Hey, Brad.
Hey there, Michael. It's great to be on Spaced Out Sunday. Nice to have this opportunity to talk with you tonight.
Well, yeah, I tell you what, I don't know about you, buddy, but it's amazing to even be alive on the planet right now with all this stuff that's going on, I think.
At breakneck speed, you can barely keep up anymore.
I know.
So much going on.
I know, literally. I feel bad when I, go to sleep at night, and, sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night, I have to take a bathroom break or something. I got to check those things to figure out if there's any breaking news that just happened around the world, because you just never know.
We live in a very interconnected world, and right now what's going on in the Asian markets, and be an indication of what will happen here tomorrow in our markets. So it's a wonderful age to be as informed as we are, but as I often say, we're drowning in information but starved for knowledge. And that's what I like to present in my Esoteric series of books.
Very well said. Yes. And you know what? For myself, it's always a pleasure to get to hook up with fellow travelers like yourself that literally, I think we probably all at one point, some level, agree to incarnate here somehow at this time on the planet because of what's going on. Literally, there are deep thinkers like yourself that are probably being very helpful for folks. Don't you find that people are coming to you more and more now, asking you questions about what's happening?
Oh, I'm getting swamped, Michael, with interview requests. This is my second 2-hour interview of the day, and it's just nonstop. But it's a good thing. I'm in service to others. I like to help. I like to share my experiences, stories, and the information that I put together in my books.
Yeah. Oh my. You're an author of 10 books, a lot of it about the esoteric knowledge that, and it's kind of interesting when I had you booked on the show, I really had to figure out what the heck esoteric actually meant. It is interesting, and it took me back to Aristotle. And the way that he would teach, he would have classes supposedly for that small group of people that he would only give certain information to, the esoteric information. And then he would have public lectures also of anybody that wanted to show up to listen to what he had to say, but that was only the exoteric information. Is that your understanding?
Oh, absolutely. And I do write about it in each one of the introductions of my Esoteric series of books. This is the latest one, Beyond Esoteric, Escaping Prison Planet. And I might like to pose the question to you, Michael, what does Escaping Prison Planet mean? And I'll certainly tell you my interpretation. But you're absolutely right. The esoteric is information that is known by a select few. And when the general population begins to know this information, it changes the nature of the word to exoteric. So very astute observation. I think you understand what it's all about. And we are now living in the Great Awakening, and we're seeing so much of what has been hidden traditionally for so long now being revealed. So you're right, it's a great time to be alive and to watch it all unfold, really virtually on a daily basis.
You're right. And for me, I'm 68 years old now. I was born in 1952. The information that has been available to the public has changed so drastically in my lifetime. Even I used to be, for a period of time, the vice president of Puget Sound Christian College as well. I'm a faith-based kind of like guy. I was raised in a Methodist church, and that kind of thing. But I tell you what, more and more people now are kind of digging deep into the sacred scriptures and finding out that there's some very esoteric information in those scriptures.
I'm no Bible scholar myself, but I'll tell you, the more I read into scriptures and passages from the Bible, the more I'm amazed how this was divinely inspired and delivered in a language that we can understand. Most especially about what's going on in the world today with Revelations and the end of the Bible, all the things that we could expect to see in this future modern age, and many of them coming to be part of our reality. And it kind of makes you wonder, how could the authors of the Bible have known this? A lot of Christians would say, well, this is the Word of God, and therefore what is being said is very spiritual in nature. I look at it from an esoteric lens to be more kind of like the I Ching, or when you use the oracle to divine prophecies, that there are certain truths in the world, and the great teachers of our age, and even in Eastern societies such as the Buddha or Lao Tzu, are able to grasp these great teachings and put it in a way that not only can people understand during the time of that person's life, but for all ages. And that is the real crux of what makes some of these very divinely inspired words so prophetic and so interesting to read.
Well, let's get a little bit of your background in, if we can. Where were you raised, and kind of let's talk about maybe your childhood initially. That would be interesting to know.
Sure. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, Arlington Heights, Illinois, and I went to Mount Prospect High School. And Michael, I can assure you there are no heights and no mountains in Prospect. It's about as flat as the prairie land could be. So I've always had a longing for the mountains and to be in nature as much as possible. And my dad was one of our scout leaders, and we went through Cub Scouts and Weeblos and then Boy Scouts with the same kids in my neighborhood. So really gaining a great appreciation for the outdoors, as well as basic survival skills and how to camp, and just a basic love and appreciation for the wilderness, which I still have to this day. I'm an avid skier, and just came back a week ago. I was up in Lake Tahoe for this last storm we got. And
wow.
That's a great way to have an experience in nature while getting a fantastic workout as well. And so my childhood just basically led to me then graduating college from Illinois State University in Normal, Illinois. And you mentioned in the setup piece that I am the founder and producer of the How Weird Street Fair. So I think if I ever wrote an autobiography, it would be From Normal to Weird. That would be the title.
Well, tell us about the Weird Street Fair. Tell us about that and how it got started.
Well, of course, in 2020, COVID canceled our event. We were 6 weeks out, just on the verge of producing what would have been the largest and perhaps most economically profitable event, even though it is a nonprofit organization that does it. We just had everything set up for a very successful event, including being the very first outdoor street fair event to have legal marijuana sales and a consumption area. And I'm not an advocate either way for it. It's just in our mix of other operations at the street fair, it would have been a first. It would have been a historic event, and we would have gotten a lot of publicity for it too. But COVID came along and shut that down, and
yeah,
now we're even wondering if we can do the event this fall. So it might be 2 years off, but it had been a very highly successful event in San Francisco, California, on Howard and 2nd Street, and we were going on our 21st year, and I hope we still can do it this year in September is when we've applied to do it in the fall.
And these are local vendors and people that are into the unique and paranormal, or what?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I design the posters every year, and on every one of the posters is either a little gray alien or a spaceship, and we incorporate this into... Also, the music is DJ-inspired music, and a lot of the samples that they include could have spaced-out type themes or talk in it. So it's always a fun day. It's if you've ever heard of Burning Man, it's kind of like a day at Burning Man, but right there in the downtown streets of San Francisco. Oh. I think if we had not started it all the way back in the year 2000 and grown it to its present proportion of 30,000 people and 13 stages, that we would never be able to just walk into the city and just say, oh, this is what we want to do. They'd say, no way, you're too big, you're too loud, and it'll cost you millions. So it was just the zeitgeist, the age, to be able to produce this event at the time we did and grow it to its present proportions, and hopefully we can come back and keep doing it.
Yeah, I noticed that things are starting to loosen up a bit. Literally, today was Super Bowl Sunday, obviously, and I went down to my local watering hole in my small town, and they are actually allowing people to, a certain percentage of the crowd in to watch the event and have food. So I'm hoping as well that this is going to be starting something as far as this whole distancing or, getting rid of the virus issues and stuff. So. But it's fascinating that literally you have been kind of an interesting fellow in the fact that you're an organizer, but you're also an author, and I know how difficult it is to actually get books done, actually write books, and actually discipline to sit there and get into that zone on a periodic basis. How do you get between that, having the creativity and then the stick-to-itness to continue on and produce those literary, books that you do? I know it's difficult.
It is difficult, and Beyond Esoteric took me 6 years to complete. So these are labors of love. These are things that I try to put a little bit into every day, and then when it gets closer to the deadline, the announced release date, then it becomes fast and furious. But there was a silly car from the Super Bowl. I was catching in and out on my cell phone when I went down to do my jog on the beach today. And it was when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And so Bud Light's coming out with a new lemon seltzer water, I guess. And, well, I like that saying. And in fact, there was a meme going around during COVID last year that said, Shakespeare wrote the play King Lear during the bubonic plague. And indeed, I got this book done during COVID because I had so much downtime, especially right after we realized we couldn't do the Howard Street Fair. So it was buckle down time. I announced the book with my distributor, which is Independent Publishers Group, a really great outfit out of Chicago, where I'm from. And just got to work, and boy, I tell you, there's nothing like a deadline to put a little fire in your pants to get the book done, and very glad I did. It is the third and final in this series. It was a lot of the chapters that didn't have a place in the first two books. I never repeat my information, so it was great to fit them in to 3 new sections, and they all filled out very well. It's a balanced book with 3 sections in each one of the 3 books, kind of like numbers, especially the number 3. And it all worked out real well. 480 pages. It's a big, thick volume with a lot of illustrations and graphics after each chapter, and very unique information. Some stuff that's in Beyond Esoteric that I don't think has really gotten out to many people yet. So
this is hot off the press. Then this is
it literally is. Yeah, the official release date was February 1st, so only a week ago.
Wonderful.
And only did Amazon have it for sale instantly, and are now starting to put up the reviews for the book. So it's very, very fresh.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, definitely send people to Amazon.com to check that out, as well as your other 2 books prior to this. But I noticed when you were flipping the pages there that you had some very interesting photographs. One of them, was it Lee Harvey Oswald was one of the photos in there?
Not sure about that.
Or was it maybe that just caught my eye, and maybe it was someone else. But tell us. Yeah, there you go. Oh, that's a famous sketch.
That's what it was. Yeah.
I know that sketch. But so this is basically a
elongated skull.
The elongated skull thing. So you basically got headings that people could skip around to. Well, is that how it works?
That is how it works. They're the kind of books where you can really flip to any page or start on any chapter. They are 3 books. The first is Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses. That starts the story of humanity and the Earth, the antediluvian civilizations, moving up to this modern age. Future Esoteric concerns itself with most of the UFO study issues, whereas I do have information on UFOs, underground bases, and other predatory species. For example, not many people think that humans might be fodder for other UFOs. And so I have a chapter being aware of predatory species about the old pecking order with some of the malevolent ETs on top that may even have a little taste for human flesh. I just feel people should understand this, read it, do their own research, come to their own conclusions. Let me just be that milestone you see along the road that gives you an indication of where you're at. Use your Google apps and your other maps to find out where you are, but you can use these esoteric guides to give you some guideposts about the wild mysteries that are out there in the world. And the book has done very well. Actually, in pre-sales, we've already sold through the very first print run. The second print run now shipping this week. So that's the book launch I've ever had. And I'm quite glad that I got it done during COVID.
Oh my!
So
I'm glad that we are able to segue into the release here of this third one. This sounds like to be the blockbuster, kind of like third time is the charm. You know, obviously you put a lot of work into each of these children that you bring along. Like it's almost like a book as a child, you know, and all of a sudden, bingo, that hits big time on the third one. That's wonderful.
That's right, and they all support each other, and it really brings up all the titles with CCC Publishing, which is my publishing imprint name. And I also work with other authors, Leo Lanzagami, Milo Duquette, and in my career as a travel writer, I've done other travel books, including other authors who have done travel books for CCC Publishing. And all those books and my books can be seen on the cccpublishing.com website.
Yeah.
And if you order through my website, you can get a signed copy if it's one of my books, unlike Amazon.
Yes, definitely. You definitely want to. Even if it costs a little bit more, it'd be nice to have a signed copy for sure. So,
they're
okay.
about the same price.
Oh, good. Well, listen, we do have to take our break right now. We are basically at the top of the hour, it looks like already here. So we're going to take our break and come right back with Spaced Out Sunday after this. But we got several minutes to relax here, and we'll be right back with Brad Olson after this.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in public? How about advertising on Speak Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@speakoutatradio.com.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblelicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit. Bumble, we're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby. And tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at thejobs.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune into SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend. Woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Hi, this is Amber Becker, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world, and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
Hey, Space Travelers, this is John Resnick, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little different. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Blue every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I can find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Blue, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Sunday. I'm your host, the paranormal lawyer, Michael W. Hall. Thanks for joining me tonight. We welcome back everyone listening in our terrestrial affiliates, WQEE 99.1 FM in Newnan, Georgia, and UPRN 107.7 in New Orleans, Louisiana. And on the digital side, we are very proud to be on Revolution Radio. Don't forget, you can always check our archives for free at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Do us a little favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping our Spaced Out Radio store, and catching up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and so much more. And we are here with our great guest, Brad Olson, and we are talking the Esoteric. Welcome back, Brad. Thank you for getting us through the commercial there, and we are back on the air. It's fascinating to me that Esoteric now almost is becoming mainstream, with people more and more wanting to know about this information, I think.
Well, absolutely, and then it changes the word to exoteric, but indeed, all that has been hidden will be revealed, and we're seeing it now, and I'm glad to play that part I play and do these interviews with people and help others understand this intricate web we find ourselves in. And I still want you to answer that question, Dave, Michael. What is Escaping Prison Planet to you? Because I do this on a couple of my shows, and I'm always amazed at the divergence of it.
I think that is a very good question, because I remember Jim Mars talked about this a lot. You know, the fact that this potential entire experience that we are having here on this plane, this realm, this dimension, could be almost as if we are sent here for punishment for a period of time to learn our lesson of something. And I wonder, I'm a lawyer, you know, I'm a retired Superior Court judge pro tem, so I have those kind of strange perspectives when you sit down and try to get the facts of what's really happening. And I often wonder about that. You know, I love those old Twilight Zone episodes that really got you thinking, you know. You remember the one about there was this poor girl, she was born with like a deformity, like a pig face. And literally everybody was feeling sorry for her, couldn't do anything with her plastic surgery wise or anything, so they ended up sending her to another planet, kind of like, a prison planet or whatever, just to get rid of her. Come to find out, everyone on the planet looked just like her, and matter of fact, she was considered very beautiful on that planet. So who knows, I don't know the answer to that question, but I often wonder, like you said at the beginning of the show when we were talking, maybe we are a food source planet for some other extraterrestrials that, put us here a long time ago and periodically come back and, snatch a few of us, for a snack. I don't know.
Well, speaking of Twilight Zone episodes, that certainly calls to mind the episode where aliens came down and they had a big book and it said, "To serve man." And that's why the Twilight Zone was so great, because you never really knew the hook until the very end.
Yeah.
At the very end of that episode, somebody deciphered the book, "To Serve Man," and we're trying to get people from stop going on the spaceship to leave because it turned out to be a cookbook, how to serve man as a course of meal.
You're right, and
good stuff like that.
The writers, Rod Serling, wrote many of those, by the way, and Richard Matheson, who wrote I Am Legend, and many interesting current, films. Somewhere in Time was written by Richard Matheson and those guys. They were so good the way they could actually craft a story within, 23 minutes, kind of like, they've got to have commercials, and then they have to tell the story with normally very few actors. There wasn't a large cast in those shows, let alone they didn't have very many sets as well, so they were low budget. But my goodness, they were, as an author yourself, I bet you could appreciate how they are crafting these stories on a weekly basis. It was a phenomenal series.
It really was. And you think 55, 60 years ago this series came out, and a lot of A-list actors got their start on the Twilight Zone, such as Robert Redford and William Shatner, who went on to be Captain Kirk. He did the famous episode where he saw a creature out on the wing of an airplane pulling things up, and he was trying to get people's attention, and everybody on the plane just thought he was insane.
That was wonderful. And the funny thing about those things, like for instance with Robert Redford and William Shatner, at that point no one knew these guys. They were unknown actors because they did. The Twilight Zone used unknown actors, and then they used some very established older actors that probably were not getting jobs in Hollywood during that period of time in the 50s and 60s. So they had a wide range of individuals that they could pick from. And it was fun to be able to see the burgeoning careers of some of those people. For instance, when William Shatner had to look out in that wing and feign, horror at what he's seeing and stuff, you really underestimate how good they really were as an actor, because later on in life they get pigeonholed into a certain character. They were pretty good.
Well, they're real good, and I would have to say that William Shatner's performance probably led to him getting cast the lead role in Star Trek, which is another classic TV show that came out over 50 years ago and is still spoke of today in such high esteem because of the information it was purveying. It gets people to think in a different way, and that's in many ways what Esoteric is all about, is looking at things through a different lens, seeing with different eyes. It's all still right there, but as the occultists say, hidden in plain sight. Well, they'll put it out there for us, but not announce it, and it's really up to us to interpret the symbolism and other concepts that are placed within these forms of media. And when you get it, and when you see it, you never stop seeing it. That's the beauty of it. So knowledge is power, and the more we can learn from these things, the better we can become at deciphering and also understanding how these things work in the world today.
You know, my brother, a year younger than me, we both went to Hollywood at the same time after college, and he ended up being a costumer for the films, and literally for many, many interesting folks, including Arnold Schwarzenegger, for the last 15 years of his life. He lived next door to William Shatner, brother, for a period of years. And he said he was just a regular guy, really nice neighbor to have, which is kind of fun to understand, a guy like that living in the Hollywood Hills there when they were in that area. But I remember another Twilight Zone episode that I think is kind of great to talk about as well, because of the esoteric knowledge that made me think about the idea of life after death, and the fact that death might not be as bad as a lot of us think. Remember the Robert Redford episode when he played Mr. Death?
Yeah. Oh, it's a classic.
Oh my word! And was that Helen Hayes, the old woman? I can't remember the actress. A very famous older actress, played the little old lady that lived kind of in the basement level apartment of this old building that was being torn down. And literally, she was being pressured by the wrecking ball crew that she had to get out of there anyway, but she didn't want to leave because she felt that if she left, she would literally die. You know how old women potentially are in that regard. And then Robert Redford shows up as a character at her front door with a wound, being shot. And she ends up taking him into her apartment and kind of like getting him back to health, and learning a little bit about this very good looking Robert Redford at the time, a very young, young man who ends up becoming actual Mr. Death, that befriends her before she actually passes on, and shows her how easy and how peaceful it actually was. I'd never thought of that before. The fact that could be potentially an amazing experience for someone.
And what a different take on the Grim Reaper. We think when death comes to our door, it's this horrible, terrifying, traumatic experience. And how, once again, the hook, how they turn it around. And it's just Robert Redford, a young guy, saying, it's okay,
and he was so good looking. He was so understanding, and the dialogue that they wrote for that episode between the old woman and the young man was just precious, I thought.
Yeah. Another classic.
Those are the kinds of...
Wish they made TV that good these days, Michael. I might actually watch it once or twice.
Every once in a while, you will get. Well, I'll tell you one. I'll tell you one that just blew my socks off recently, and I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's called Schitt's Creek. I don't know if you've seen it. Oh my word! It's just an interesting Netflix. Actually, I don't know if it was Netflix or whether it was Amazon Prime, but it's not spelled S-H-I-T, but it's S-C-H-I-T. It's after a family that's called the Shit family, but they are very rich people who lose it all, stock market or whatever. They lose their fortune, and they end up moving to a small rural community and buying a old, real sketchy motel on the side of the road. But their son is gay. which is David Levin. It's oh gosh, what's his father's name? He's very, very famous. And their daughter is kind of like a floozy that they all used to be very rich and they didn't know how to handle their money and they blew it bad and stuff. But some of the writing on that show and some of the shows that you'll see out there are just, they're precious because they got to get the storyline in a matter of 24, 23 minutes. So something else to think about. I mean, every once in a while you'll find something that kicks in and hits a nerve for people out there as well. And I hope, this is my hope, now that potentially Hollywood is loosening up a bit, because as you well notice, there has been a dearth of any productions coming out of the mainstream Hollywood or film or even television series because of the COVID thing. But I think they're starting to loosen up a bit, and I'm hoping that we're going to get that flood of creativity coming in now. And maybe folks like, I don't know if you've ever had one of your books optioned for a series or a film, but you never know. You might get a phone call yourself soon.
That would be great. Lines are open.
Yeah. I mean,
we'd love to do a whole series on these subjects. I think they're so fascinating. It would make for great television. You're absolutely right.
Well, and you've been on Ancient Aliens. You've been on those kinds of magazine format shows that literally will take, a book like yourself, a researcher like yourself, and take advantage of their many, many decades of hard work. How did you find those folks to deal with when you were being asked to come on those shows?
They're always very professional. Everything works very smoothly, on time. I like these saying that success is 80% showing up on time. And that's what you have to do. You have to know your material, but you also have to be punctual, dress right, and look good. I'm flying to Denver next month to be on a Gaia TV show, Beyond Belief, with George Norrie. I have to cut the hair. This is sort of my COVID protest, just letting it grow long. Until a week or two ago, you couldn't even get a haircut here in California. So
yeah, you're looking a little David Icke-ish,
Yeah, a little bit.
I like it.
It's basically these opportunities. They almost always come to me. When you try to go knocking yourself, it hardly ever works. So just do the very best you can with what you do, and it will be recognized, and then the producers will give you a call and see if you might be a good fit for a show.
Yeah.
That's how it's always worked with me.
And obviously when you get on Tom Danheiser's list, and George likes you, you're getting calls back on that. It must be fun to be able to work on that show Beyond Belief, because it's just like a interview Carson show, for the esoteric and the paranormal.
Yeah, it really is. And 2 years ago, I was on a boat leaving Antarctica, and I remember it was Super Bowl Sunday, and it was our first day on the Drake Passage coming back, which took 6 days because we were going against the wind. It took 4 days going down on a sailboat. I was down there for almost a month, including the passage time. And it was an experience of a lifetime. Now I've been to all 7 continents, so I do tie together this world perspective into my writings and into the experiences that I talk about. So when I came back from that trip, that was the first thing a lot of hosts wanted me to talk about. And I still do. I have a presentation that I give at conferences called The Hidden Anomalies of Antarctica, just to give people an idea of what it is like down there, what is some of the research that's going on, and as well as what is speculated to be under the ice. And that could be a whole show, Michael. But
I know.
He really glommed onto that. He loved that topic, and we seem to talk about that each time. But when I'm going next month, they're honoring me with the whole idea of taking content out of this book and doing an episode of Beyond Belief. So, yeah, I guess Tom and George liked me enough to do that. Plus, some of the great producers at Gaia TV, including Sid Goldberg, who wrote one of the blurbs to Beyond Esoteric in the first 2 pages here. Some of my colleagues in the field were so gracious with their words to say a few very nice things about the book that I showed them as it was nearing completion.
Oh, wonderful. Boy, that must have been very interesting. Did you say that you were on a sailboat going to Antarctica?
Yeah, that's right.
Tell us about that. That's I've never heard of anyone doing that on a sailboat.
Oh, it was pretty hairy too, because the first day on the Drake Passage, which is notoriously the stormiest seas of the world, boy, it was just shaking our boat. We actually sustained some damage because the captain, it was his first time going down there, and we wanted to make up a little time because our keel was stuck in the mud during the low tide, and it delayed our departure from Ushuaia, Argentina. So we got through the Beagle Passage that was named after the voyage that Charles Darwin was on, and made that turn onto the Drake Passage, and boy, I was so seasick, and 2/3 of our crew and the other people on the boat got seasick, but a few didn't, and they were able to keep us going southbound. But I was thrown up for about 3 days straight. All the food that I had in me out, wasn't able to eat anything. I lost about 25 pounds on that trip. Just because when you empty your stomach for 5 days, yeah, you'll lose some weight, I guarantee you. So we call that the Drake Passage crash diet for anybody out there that wants to go on a crash diet. But once we got there, it's just amazing. And then there are many passages you can take between islands, so you're not on the high seas anymore. But the passing of massive icebergs was the first thing we saw, and then we went to a couple islands outside of the Palmer Peninsula. We eventually got to the Palmer Peninsula and set foot on the continent. But for the most part, we were visiting a lot of the islands along the Palmer Peninsula. And it was going to a research station just about every day, or a penguin colony, or just some kind of really amazing adventure. Every day was different. And in fact, I did a video series on another video channel called Sci-Spy TV, and I put together all of the video that I shot, as well as narrated 16 episodes on Sci-Spy TV, and the series is called Antarctica by Sail with Brad Olson. So type that in, you'd find it. So that was Antarctica, and when we came back, the seas were not as high, and we had already gotten our sea legs on, so didn't get seasick on the way back. Plus, we took those Dramamine pills, and we took them too late on the first day. And if you take them too late, then you get seasick, and they won't do any good. But if you take them a day or two before the high seas, they did prevent us from getting seasick on the way back, and nobody on our ship got seasick on the way back. So we all kind of got accustomed to each other and really depended upon each other, too. I mean, when we would go up and do watch on the boat, and we were all required to take turns watching for icebergs, because in a sailboat, you hit an iceberg and everybody's life's in jeopardy. You would not be able to survive more than 3 or 4 minutes in that frigid water, and that's all it takes with hypothermia and sub-freezing temperatures. So when we were on watch during the high seas, we had to strap in with a cable that connected to the boat. And in fact, one time a big wave did hit the boat. I was below deck, but we heard it and felt it, and our things went flying across the cabin. And one of the guys who was on watch actually would have gone overboard had it not been for his strap, and the other guys pulled him in. So it was hair-raising. It was dangerous. It was one of those things that I'm glad I did it. I don't know if I'd go back and do it in the same kind of way. I have been talking to a producer in Hollywood about doing an expedition to another part of Antarctica. for a History Channel type show. But of course, COVID shut everything down last year. So we're hoping next season, because right now is when people are down there, and it's kind of the tail end of the 2.5 month period when it's summer down in Antarctica. Because then when it shuts down real hard and cold and fast, and you don't want to be stuck down there during the winter. People do literally go insane.
Oh my goodness. I guess Admiral Byrd found out about that as well. We don't have time to talk about that now, but we're going to take a break again, and we're going to come right back after our bottom of the hour here, and we're going to this is fascinating stuff. More with Brad Olson after this.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday, right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey.
And I'm John. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptid, UFO, you name it, and we're going for it.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night, Spaced Out Saturday, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. For more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Are you addicted to the woo? Good. Me too. This is Dave Scott, and you can woo it up with me every Monday through Friday, starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, for 3 hours of great entertainment in the subjects you love. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, intuition. Yes, we hit it all 5 days a week. Look for us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, my friends, we own the night.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightline Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hey Spaced Out Radio fans, it's John Resnick, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from dance to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckford, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
And we are back with Brad Olson, author, speaker, and esoteric philosopher. And Brad, there was an interesting thing that I read about your bio that had something to do with drive-in theater UFOs. Now that caught my attention there. What do you mean by the idea of drive-in theater UFOs?
I think you're reading the listing for the last time I was on Coast to Coast.
Oh, okay.
And the guest that was on after me did that book, Drive-In Theaters, UFOs. And I think the gist of it is that a lot of people who are at drive-in movie theaters, they're out there at night and they're watching the screen, and sometimes in the sky they'll see UFO crafts. And so this author put together a whole book on that.
You know, that is funny. Okay, I'm glad that we clarified that was somebody else's work. But you know, Peter Davenport literally kind of started his career as a young, not his career, but he was literally at a drive-in theater with his parent, his mother, and his brother. When he was about 8 years old, he says, and they literally saw a UFO at a drive-in theater. And they're watching the thing, and there was this was in back east somewhere where he was living in that area. And a funny thing, the reason I know this is Peter Davenport's a client of mine. You know, I'm the paranormal lawyer, so I've been involved with lots of researchers and paranormal investigators for quite a while. I've been Peter's attorney for over 3 decades. And he tells this story. Literally, his father, while they were watching this movie in a drive-in theater, his father was working at that local airport in the tower and literally saw the UFO from the tower when his family was watching it from the drive-in theater, and they were able to compare stories when they got home about this thing. I thought that was kind of weird. That and literally it became one of the major sighting reports in that area. He grew up in the New Hampshire area, the incident at Exeter, the Barney and Betty Hill, case and all those kinds of things. That brings up a question that I always like to ask my guests on the show is, have you ever seen a UFO yourself or had some kind of an interesting experience in that regard?
Well, yes, I have, and that really is what set me off on many of these studies as they pertain to UFO sightings and extraterrestrials.
Oh my!
In the Esoteric series, Future Esoteric, in the introductory chapters, I tell the story of how I was up at Crater Lake in 1997, and I was with some backpackers.
Now, is this famous Crater Lake in Oregon?
Yeah.
Oh my!
Right.
Oh, there's lots of stories about Crater Lake. So go ahead, continue.
Yeah, it is one of the deepest lakes in the world. It is just a straight down neck of a crater that exploded in fairly recent times. Some of the Native American tribes have stories, oral histories of it. I profile it in my book called Sacred Places North America. So I've been there a few times, and even went there the last time to recreate my experience for a TV show called Mysteries of the Outdoors. And they profiled my particular sighting story, which was with these backpackers, and we were up there watching the sunset, and just when we started walking back to the campsite to meet our other friends, the three of us saw this streaking light slowly proceeding from the sky towards the depths of Crater Lake, and it just broke up into perfect square blips. It's really the best way I can describe it. It could have been an energy weapon of some sort, but there was no explosion, no sound, no nothing. I think it was a glimpse into another dimension, craft moving through the sky, going into the depths of the lake. So the three of us just fell down laughing. We couldn't believe what we saw. Of course, all night we were comparing notes and describing the exact same thing. But the really remarkable thing was, when we ran up the hill to go meet our other friends to see if they had seen it, we saw the exact same phenomenon over Mount Shasta, about 50 miles south in the distance. So it was kind of a 2-for-1 sighting, and the light beam did the exact same thing. It slowly streaked through the sky and then broke up into these perfect square blips. And again, it was going right towards the top of the Mount Shasta volcano. And what I've come to learn after that, because I was just so profoundly amazed at what I'd seen, what I found was that most UFO sightings occur at or above volcanoes. And this is really interesting because you think, well, what is a volcano itself? Well, it has hot molten magma coming out. It has large chambers underneath a volcano. And it could be a way that interdimensionals or ultra-dimensional terrestrial entities are able to transcend through our matter and go into these cavities below volcanoes and basically be unseen. And there's also stories of a giant city below Mount Shasta called Telos, Telos. And in fact, I was just down in LA a couple months ago taping for the new season of Ancient Aliens, talking about Mount Shasta and Telos. And in that same year, 1997, when we had the sighting over Crater Lake and then Mount Shasta, a month later, I got a couple friends together and we climbed to the summit of Mount Shasta and didn't get invited into Telos. And some people say that there's this little guy with a bell named Phylos who will occasionally invite hikers into the city there itself. And I spoke at a conference last summer at the Mount Shasta Summer Conference with Rob Potter. And we were going to have a speaker that had recently been inside of Telos. But last summer we got hit with all those really big fires in July and August, and that speaker had some fires, I think, where he lived, and it complicated him leaving, and unfortunately had to cancel at the last minute. But I know where the entrance is, and we're going to make an attempt this summer. I'm invited back to speak at the Mount Shasta Summer Conference this July or August, whenever the dates are announced. And I got a couple hiking buddies, and we're going to go up to that location, see if can maybe meditate and say nice things about Talos, and Philos will come out and invite us in.
Oh, I am totally on board with your idea there of Mount Shasta and Talos, because another client of mine by the name of Grant Cameron, he's quite a famous, researcher from Canada, has made quite a few trips to Mount Shasta with the not South American, but with the guys as a Spanish speaker group that's been involved in that thing as well, and they literally said, Grant Cameron, that they experienced when they were there 2 summers ago what he calls a Zendra, or that group of Latin American researchers call a Zendra, where it's like a kind of a cloud that looks like a lens that kind of settles over that certain area of the mountain. And indeed, they supposedly ran across some 10-foot alien being and had some interactions there on the mountain with someone. And of course, there's been all sorts of rumors and lore about that underground civilization that actually lives underneath that mountain. It's many people have talked about that. I wish you well in this new expedition that you're about ready to undertake, because as you well know, sometimes you just got to watch what you ask for, because you might run across something very interesting, I'm sure. Make sure you've got your phone and your GoPros or whatever thing are all set, and you've got enough battery power.
Yeah, would hate to run out of battery power right when we got into Talos. Well, they'll say, pictures. Your
idea of the UFOs actually disappearing into Crater Lake and Mount Shasta and those kinds of things. I literally founded and direct a group called the UFO I-Team myself, and these are highly sophisticated and educated researchers, PhD level folks as well, in our group. And literally we have recorded on tape many anomalies of objects disappearing into mountains, and they don't have to be active volcanoes necessarily.
Right.
But literally, they're just kind of zipping in from different directions, for instance. Of course, we initially would think that maybe they're just shooting stars and they're disappearing behind the mountain, is initially what we thought. But then when we slowed them down on our videotapes and kind of looked at them further, they're literally coming from different directions. And they're disappearing into the mountain themselves. We've got this on tape ourselves, so I totally agree with you that there does not seem to be a problem with literally disappearing into solid matter with these objects.
Right, and it just enhances the whole legend and lore of UFOs and mountains. There's a volcanic mountain just outside of Mexico City, and it is literally the most viewed UFO paranormal hotspot in the world. There are millions of people in Mexico City that have had UFO sightings over this volcano. So keep your eyes on the mountains. And I'll also tell you, I've been to the Isetti Ranch, James Gilden's ranch in Washington State, not too far from you.
Yep.
And for 2 nights, we just saw anomalous lights coming and going from Mount Adams, above, around, beyond, entering into. And that mountain itself is another one of these paranormal hotspots. You just got to go there to see it with your own eyes to believe it, because they happen so frequently. After a while, it's just, there's another one. Well, there's another one. Now it's flaring up. It's doing all these strange things. And I went hiking up there because I'm that kind of guy. I like to go right to these places. So we went up Mount Adams, got the permits and crampons and everything. And we went to the east-facing slope. Actually, it was west-facing, and then to the east is Mount St. Helens.
Yeah.
And that's where all the light activity was going on the west-facing slope of Mount Adams. And peering over into that area, I called it the zone of silence, because it is just steep, sharp lava rock with no trails and no people going in there. And that's where all the activity was going on for both of the nights we were there. So I asked James, I said, well, we kind of climbed up to 10,500 feet and looked down into it, and it was very inhospitable. It looks like that rock was so sharp it would cut your boots up. And he's like, oh, yeah, it would. I said, well, has anybody ever gone there? He said there was one guy a couple years ago who made the voyage in there, and it took a couple days because it's so hard to get through that terrain. And he said the day that he was getting close to this door in the mountain, and he even described it that way, like a giant garage door, he started getting these telepathic messages. You must leave now. It's dangerous. Turn around right now. He kept going because he wanted to see what was there, and he finally saw it. And then the messages are like, we'll kill you if you don't leave now. And he basically ran out of there in fear. And James said it took him a couple days to describe what he had seen because he came back just ashen white, so frightened by that experience that I'll never go back there. So there are these places, even on this world with 8 billion human beings, that people just are not meant to go to. And I would propose that Antarctica is one of those places too. What exists below 2 miles of ice on the most volcanic continent of the world? It's like the deepest depths of the ocean and what's under the ice are the two last great frontiers of our geophysical planet that have not fully been explored or understood.
Oh, exactly. You know, I can relate to East City Ranch and Mount Adams there. Our UFOI team literally did an expedition to Mount Adams 2 summers ago, and we had a triangulation going on. We sent a group up to Lunch Counter, which is, you know, the kind of like that first plateau that you get up there. You've been there, and
that's where we got them.
And you know, you go to Lunch Counter early in the morning because you want to get there early enough that you can then summit before the sun gets too up there. And literally, we had these guys, Lee Strauss and Andrew Uristi and some of the guys on our team they're real mountain guys, but they literally will take their GoPros and their gear with them when they climb up there. And literally, they spent the night on Lunch Counter, and they hunkered down, kind of like your friend probably trying to get to the other side. But while they were there, sleeping in a tent, at about 3:30 in the morning, they said, they woke up, and there was this light shining down on their tents from the sky, literally. Illuminating their tents, and they couldn't believe that there was anybody shining a flashlight at them because there were no other ways to look down on them from their location. And then when they looked out to try to find out what the light source was, they couldn't find it. They went back to bed, and in the morning, then they literally. One of the guys in the expedition with them had an amazing mark on his lower spine. There was like a round dot that was punched into his lower spine in that thing in the middle of the night. So that was not there the night before. In other words, what he was saying. So I can attest personal firsthand testimony from friends in my group that literally there's weird stuff going on at Mount Adams, and we literally caught stuff on videotape that was amazing. James Gilliland just kind of like takes this stuff in stride. Literally, he'll be out there himself. What a great guy to talk to. He'll talk with anyone and explain what's going on. Not only UFOs, but Bigfoot out there. It's hilarious.
Right there on his property, yeah. I was there when Clyde Lewis was doing his Ground Zero conference. I was one of the speakers. And Clyde saw it. Clyde saw the Bigfoot, and when asked to describe what it looked like, he said it had hair like Robert Plant. Great big mane, blondish hair.
Yeah, perfect.
And his first reaction was, "Oh, Robert Plant's here," and then like, "Oh no, that's Bigfoot," and then phew, it's gone in a few seconds.
Well,
yeah, Clyde,
when we were there that summer, literally, James was able to show us a casting of a Bigfoot footprint that was taken the week before our expedition showed up at Esoteric Ranch. And I got to hold it. I mean, this was literally, I mean, I've seen, I actually know Grover Krantz, one of the famous, researchers in that field as well, because he was a professor at my college at Washington State University. And he was one of the first Bigfoot researchers that literally had all those casts and stuff. And this looked like the real thing to me as far as the Bigfoot cast that was casted just the week before we got there. It's weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know everywhere James goes, he has paranormal experiences. He was staying with a friend of mine in Sedona, Arizona, speaking at a conference there. And Bigfoot is in Sedona as well. And it knew that James was there and kept putting apples on the bench every day. Now, it's anecdotal. Anybody could have done that, I suppose. But James swore that he knew he could feel the presence of the Bigfoot in Sedona, and it was coming to leave little offerings for him.
Yeah.
So he's a great guy, really fun to talk to, like you said, very personable, and will tell you anything. And he'll also say that sometimes ETs from Mount Adams will come down to the Esoteric Ranch and meet with him and his brother Jay, and they'll talk to him, sometimes telepathically, and they'll give him suggestions about what he should try to convey for the betterment of humanity and things like that. So we really have to look at all of these stories, and when taken together, it does create this incredible mosaic of paranormal and extraterrestrial visitation. And I really liked talking with you tonight, Michael. You're so up on these subjects and have so much to add with your insight. So this has been a great night. Real pleasure to speak with you tonight.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Like I said, it's fun to get like-minded souls together and exchange ideas, and exchange experiences as well, because it's kind of fun to be able to hear corroborations from folks like yourself going to the same locations, seeing some of the same things. It's fascinating to me that we can literally corroborate with one another sometimes these very unbelievable esoteric ideas, and literally when you talk about a lawyer like me, a researcher like you, having different experiences but very similar experiences, you got to start thinking about those things.
You really do indeed. And boy, I wish we had more time because we could get more into the book, including this graphic on the cover, which is the yellow cube.
Oh, yeah.
Lights that can interact with our mind and look at incidents in the past, or even look at the probable futures ahead. And I reference it extensively in Beyond Esoteric, and as far as I know, it's the first book that has put it on its cover. There it is. My interpretation and my book designer's collaboration of what the yellow cube might look like.
Oh, that is interesting. I had no idea what a yellow cube is. It's maybe we can get into that. I don't know if do you have enough time left to do. We're going to go another whole hour if you want. We got a commercial break, but it's up to you.
Yeah, I'll go a little bit longer with you. I'm getting a little bit tired. Hopefully I'll be able to keep on my high bar of giving good information.
Well,
but, sure.
We'll play it by ear and just do another short segment here when we come back after our 6-minute break and see how you feel. We won't push you any farther than you need, but we'll take a break now at the top of the, I guess we're at the top of the hour already, so hang on, folks. We'll be right back after this. More Space Out Day.
Hey, Space Travelers, this is John Resnick, the founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things different. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a minimalist cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Are you an experiencer or something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Site Report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do, all we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Site Report.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I can find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the story you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot Hot Sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot Hot Sauce today. The sauce, Bumblelicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk in your butt. And tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot Hot Sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month. And follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come on up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. for a price guide and for more information, please contact us at sales@space.radio.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune into SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is Watching.
Hi, this is Amber Becker, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend. Woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Okay, we are back. Brad Olson here, and Brad won't keep you much longer. I just thought it would be very fun if we could, because you did mention something very unique on the front cover of that new book of yours, that maybe you can explain what that thing is. That's very interesting.
All right. Well, all your listeners who have stayed up this late, yes, you get a little surprise, and I will take an excerpt out of the book itself. As I said, there are many references in here, and I attempt to describe what the looking glass technology is, including this device called the Yellow Cube, which was given to our generals in a technology exchange at Holloman Air Force Base in 1964. And so this is what is known as the Granada Treaty, which is sometimes known as Granada Treaty. Seen it spelled both ways. But basically, the Yellow Cube was demonstrated to the generals, and being pious, God-fearing Christians at the time, they were asked, what event in world history would you like us to demonstrate? And the generals said, well, we would like to see the Passion Play of Jesus Christ, the last moment of his life. And so this technology is a viewing device to other dimensions, including the exact timeline of our past, plus different probable future outcomes on a handheld device. And so, as I mentioned, the cover of this book opens the many screens on a Yellow Cube device. Talk about the next killer app if they're all allowed to have the Yellow Cube.
Wow.
In 2019, QAnon made the following post, 3585. Project Looking Glass, going forward in order to look back. And in fact, the keyboards lit up when they heard about Looking Glass being mentioned for the very first time through some of these government or military channels. So the generals were amazed when the event of Christ's final hours were played in a holographic, three-dimensional screen. Sort of like, remember in the first Star Wars when they played that three-dimensional chess, and it looked so realistic, but you could tell it was a hologram? So it was like that, but this was a recording of the event itself. So we hear that Jesus Christ was a real man, and he died in a very horrific way on the cross, and this just so amazed the generals that they acquired it. Now, it was interesting that when it came out in 2019, that the White Hats were then using the yellow cube, because what it can also do, not only look back on any event in history with crystal clear clarity, it's a record of what it is, much like the Akashic records, which we've heard are part of this crystalline record of all events that have happened throughout history, not only on Earth, but even throughout the universe. And so this device can interact with the mind of the user, but also tap into some of these records of everything that's ever happened. So we would be able to negate all of the conspiracies that ever were if we were all able to watch it. We say, okay, cue up Dealey Plaza the day Kennedy got shot. Oh, look at the bullet coming from the Dell Tech's building. Well, that one ricocheted. Oh, look at the guy shooting on the grass. So everything would be known to everyone. There would be no more secrets. And so one of the chapters in my book, Future Esoteric, is about the age of transparency. So this is very revolutionary technology. If it were ever to be used on a mass level, it would just absolutely change everything we know about our own history. The great French philosopher Voltaire had a quote that history is the Mississippi of lies. There have just been so many falsehoods about our true human origins, to civilizations, and everything that has happened in this modern age that has been victory is history is told by the winners, basically. So anything that has to do with wars or crimes, I mean, it's all distorted, but this could clear it all up. And that's why I think knowing about the yellow cube, just knowing about it, is very important to try to understand if this technology is real, how very powerful it could be, and if in the wrong hands, then you could use it to try to game the system. So looking into the future with this, Michael, this is when it gets really interesting. The future is nothing but a series of probabilities. So that means you can use the yellow cube and you can look at probable futures. And so if you're able to game the system in a certain way to get that probable future, then you have a tremendous advantage over any adversary. And so that's why this technology had to be wrestled away from the bad guys, and, well, according to this Q post, is now being used by the good guys to counter the activities that may be done using this device. It's my understanding that there is one that is in existence in Los Alamos. This is where a lot of the free energy patents go to die, unfortunately. There have been many. I did a chapter in Future Esoteric about free energy and profiled a dozen or more free energy devices that show great promise, but they just would get usurped and stowed away, most prominently at the underground bases below Los Alamos. So,
oh my.
Good information. Oh,
Brett,
yeah.
Brett, I'm so glad that I asked you to just stick around for one more segment here, because that's all we needed to do is get that kind of snapshot of what you're talking about in this brand new book of yours, Beyond Esoteric. You gotta have a copy of this, folks. Go out there and get it on Amazon. Order it directly from your website. You want to give your website again on how they hold it?
Yeah, it's cccpublishing.com. And there's another website called Esoteric Series where you can see all the books and a little write-up and click the links to buy it. If you want to know more about me, BrettOlson.com and howweird.org for the street fair we talked about at the beginning of the show. And, yeah, you can find me on the socialist media, so I'm kind of taking a step back from all that with all the censorship. I'm not too happy with that, but as it stands, I still have a YouTube channel. I haven't got knocked off of there yet with all the audiobook versions of the first two Esoteric books. So you can listen along and hear the audiobook for free on my YouTube channel, which is CCC Publishing and Esoteric Series. But
wonderful.
The big site is the ccpublishing.com, and you can see the Google Book app and actually read pages and chapters from the book like you'd be browsing in a bookstore. Same kind of experience.
Well, Brett Olson, thank you so much for hanging out with us here on Spaced Out Sunday. We got a whole interesting year coming at us at 2021, and you and others like yourself are the people that we need to help get us across that threshold, I think, that's coming down the pike here. So thank you again, buddy. We'll have to have you back.
Oh, I'd love to be back, Michael. It was great talking to you tonight, and you're absolutely right. We're at that crossroads of humanity. It's timeline 1 and 2, and this is another thing that the Yellow Cube has done is make us understand that there are timelines that we are on, and there's good timelines and bad timelines, and we certainly want to usher in the good timelines and enter this prophesized golden age.
Yes, I can't wait. All right, buddy. Well, you have yourself a great week. Thank you so much for everything for tonight's show. All right, folks. We'll be right back. We'll be back in a few moments here with one special announcement, and then we'll see you next week.
Listen for it again. And then we'll give you that feeling for small functions land. Sit down under with the land. They get bells full and covered and so never could be found. Which deep down
I want to remind everyone that Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every show. You can find out more information and music at bumblefoot.com. A special thanks to everyone listening in at home, in your cars, at work, in the chat rooms, wherever you are around the world. Remember, the show is currently powered by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thanks for sharing your evening with us. Because together, my friends, we own the night. Good night, everyone. We'll talk to you next Sunday night on Spaced Out Sunday.